Give you the grid then for the Co-World Sports Tin Tops and the Puma Cup, as they will be heading out onto the circuit very, very shortly. And as we say, they will line up based on qualifying times that were set. It is number 86, which will be started by Nigel Ainge, starts on pole position, and 888 Andrew Windmill is alongside. Row 2 of the grid is number 1, Adam Brown, and number 6, which is Russell Hurd. The third row of the grid is 1, 2, 4, Richard Wheeler. Quite how he's got from talking to Marcus Pine all the way to the assembly area, got in the car and got out in time, I'm not sure, but he starts there on the third row of the grid alongside car number 36, which is Alfie Jones. Row 4, 26, Chris Earle, and 132 Adrian Matthews, with row 5 being number 20 Julian Fisher and 420 Kev Smith. Row 6, 771, which is Steve McDermott, and 49 Dave Hutchinson. Row 7 is 34 Peter Parkin and 40 Matt Churton. Row 8, 69 Charlie Ford and 51 Nick Mellor, with row 9 being 317 Peter Hancock will start, and alongside is 94, which will be started by Ben Uren. The 10th row of the grid, 55, Steve Fletcher starts, and alongside is 515 Jake Humphrey, with row 11 being 45 Alan Wilshire and 196, which is Ian Howard. 691 Matthew Griffiths on row number 12 alongside 76, which is Stephen Gerrard. Row 13 is 177 Catherine Henderson and 163, which is Luke Johnson. The 14th row of the grid, 206 Simon Hadfield and number 4 Mark Walton. 152 Neil Jackson, I'll come back to Neil in a few moments, lines up alongside Con 110 Gareth Cotgrove on row number 15. Row 16 57 Andy Jones and 88 Paul Murphy. Row 17 117 Zach Bagwell and 59 Andrew Rollison and 111 Katie Wall. Starts at the tail end of the field. 2 cars with 30-second penalties. One is on pole position, car number 86, Nigel Ainge. The other car starts on row number 2 and is car number 1, the most successful driver in the series last year, which was Adam Brown. They both have an extra 30 seconds to spend in the pit lane. Car number 152, Neil Jackson, sporting a green sunstripe on his car, and that is the white and grey car, but with the light green sunstripe to it. Neil out racing in the Puma Cup. His brother Mark used to race with us in the Puma Cup, but always in a light green Ford Puma, and very sadly Mark Jackson lost his very short battle with cancer recently, so that is why that car is sporting the green sunstrip. It's also got green 142, which is the old race number of Mark Jackson, on the mirrors, and I think car number 196 Ian Howard, I think they've also done the same, got the 142 in green on the wing mirrors of their car. So there is that green sunstrip on the car in memory of the late Mark Jackson, who I'm sure is missed by all his family and friends. So Nigel Ainge is going to start the car that is there on pole position. Nigel will, I'm sure, not mind me saying, he will not have been the driver that set the time for the grid, because Danny Cassar is a very, very rapid driver, and it would have been a Danny Cassar time that would have been the 1 minute 4.047 that would have set the pole time. So once the race gets going, don't be surprised if the number 86 car in the hands of Nigel Ainge drops back a little bit, because Andrew Windmill and Adam Brown and Russell Hurd and Richard Wheeler all might squeeze their way through, including the rapid Dayglow car of Alfie Jones. But once Nigel sort of plateaus at the pace where he is happy, then watch that car come back through the order again once Danny Cassar is on board. And it wouldn't surprise me almost if the first flying lap that Danny does when he gets behind the wheel of that car, it's going to be the fastest lap of the race. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So, did you have a car missing on the grid? No, sorry, I saw you scribbling a note. I thought I'd missed something. A real mixture of cars as well. Hondas, Fords, a Volvo. We've got MGs, we've got Peugeots, we've got Alfa Romeos out there. So a real mixture of cars all that out there, as is always the case in the CSCC Tin Tops. And it's going to take a while to get them all into position, isn't it? So they're slowly working their way into the correct position, and we're all right. Slowly they're working their way into position. Directly opposite us is Neil Jackson's car as well. I can see the green sunstripe on that car. Oh, I can see the green 142 on the mirrors as well now. So yeah, nice little touch that, and let's hope that Neil Jackson and Nick Fuljames, who he shares that car with, have a good race in memory of his late brother Mark Jackson. So we're almost there, just got the final few rows of the grid to work their way into position now. In terms of colours, well, it's sort of white and light blue for the, or teal almost, for the Honda Integra DC5 of Nigel Ainge that sits on pole position. It's white and sort of more of a sky blue for Andrew Windmill that lies alongside. It's white with blue with grey for Adam Brown alongside the all-white Honda of Richard Hurd, and it's white with a blue stripe for Richard Wheeler alongside, you can't miss it, the Dayglow orange and black car in the hands of Alfie Jones. Alfie Jones is the one car on the grid that you can't be excused for not seeing, because it is absolutely Dayglow. There is a gap on the second row of the grid, and that gap is Richard Wheeler. So I did wonder how he'd managed to make it from chatting with Marcus Pye to the assembly area in time. He's not been able to make it to the assembly area in time. There's a gap on the third row of the grid, so Richard Wheeler may opt to start from the pit lane once he has jumped into the Ford Fiesta, having jumped out of his Lamborghini. So 5-second board being held aloft. We've got 40 minutes on the clock, and we're about to get this Co-World Sports Tin Tops race underway here at Silverstone on the national circuit. Lights go out now, and it looks like Andrew Windmill from the second row, from the front row of the grid, but from second on the grid, gets a slightly better start and is going to go ahead of Nigel Ainge. Squeezing his way through is Russell Hurd and Adam Brown as well. So, as I said, don't be surprised if Nigel Ainge goes backwards a little bit, because the pole time would have been set by Danny Cassar. Everybody's safely, I think, through Copse Corner, and this huge grid of 35 cars headed up towards Beckett's for the first time, with Andrew Windmill leading the way from Russell Hurd in second place, Adam Brown in third, Archie Jones is there in fourth place, Nigel Ainge is down into fifth position as they pick their way onto the Wellington Straight for the first time. We'll also try and pick up on what's going on in the Puma Cup as well, because fastest in qualifying for the Puma Cup was Andrew Howard, and I think he has been caught by Luke Johnson, number 163 Ford Puma, in the early stages of this one.
This is an absolutely brilliant pace. This is going to be constant action the whole way through. No one's going to have a clear run through the traffic. There'll be traffic at every corner. The Pumas, 6 of them this weekend, was unusual. But the field led by Andrew Windmill, and Windmill goes through ahead of Russell Hurd in the plain white Tegra with its bonnet just chattering, you notice, as it comes up into Copse. Doesn't come out very often, Russell Hurd.
No, he doesn't.
When he does come out, he's usually pretty effective up at the sharp end of the field. In third, it's number 1, which is Adam Brown, and then in fourth place, it's 36, which is Alfie Jones.
Well, it's now second place for Adam Brown. He's snuck through and ahead of Russell Hurd. So that's Adam Brown up into second place, Russell Hurd down into third position, with Alfie Jones in the Dayglow car not that far away. I was right, the lead of the Pumas had gone the way in the early stages of Luke Johnson, who had managed to squeeze his way through and ahead of Ian Howard's car. So we'll pick up on the Pumas to let you know what's going on. And it's a very affordable way of going racing, actually. The Ford Pumas, they are pretty much standard 1.7 litre C-Tech engine, which actually is a Yamaha-derived engine in reality. But it's a very affordable way of going racing in the Puma Cup. Over the start-finish line comes Andrew Windmill. He leads the way at this stage from Adam Brown, as we say, in second place. Russell Hurd in third, but under pressure from the Dayglow car of Alfie Jones, who sits there in fourth place. Then Nigel Ainge in the second of the Integras sits there in fifth place. And it's going to be Chris Earle who completes the top 6 at the moment. A good battle further down through the order is Kev Smith at the wheel of his Honda Civic, fighting away with the Volvo C30 of Adrian Matthews, that we saw doing good things yesterday.
And we've got 5 of the Pumas pretty much in a line down towards Copse Corner. There's Russell Hurd, who's having a chase. But there's the Pumas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them all together. And that's fantastic, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Luke Johnson's, I think, will be the first of those.
It's the breakaway, I think.
Yeah, the rest of the yellow and the blue one looks very familiar to the Rapid Fit colours, doesn't it? And Neil Jackson is up into second in the Pumas, with Ian Howard in the yellow car, third in the Pumas, but right behind him is the car that's fourth in the Pumas. So that is a good little fight amongst the Puma Cup cars, which are all together going down in towards the braking area for Brooklands. They're mixing up against some of the tin tops as well. That's Simon Hadfield's Peugeot that's just ahead of them. And are we going to have a change in the order here? Bit sideways on the way in towards Brooklands there. The moment was gathered up, and I think that was that Zach Bagwell, wasn't it, that got a little bit sideways, and just a bit of turning oversteer on his car.
2, 3, 4, 5, isn't it, in the Pumas, because there is that breakaway, which is Johnson. But so the yellow one's got a bit of a bingle in the door.
That's Ian Howard's car.
They're 3 abreast down under the bridge, the Pumas.
It's got a so things have got a little bit close there, but
For greater straight line speed.
good fight that's going on between them all as they
Reduce the drag factor.
work their way out of it. They're great little chassis on the Puma as well. There's a change, and that is going to be Zach Bagwell, who sneaks up the inside of the yellow Puma, which is in the hands of Ian Howard, who had qualified on pole in the Puma Cup, but is now down to 4th in the Puma Cup. But all 4 of them are together.
Yeah. That's very spectacular. And coming back is the car. Oh, is that Howard? Got the row unusually far back among the Pumas.
Just having a quick look. Neil Jackson was 3rd in the Puma Cup at the start of the previous lap. He's up to 2nd in the Puma Cup now and is attacking Luke Johnson for the lead of it actually as they come over the start-finish line. Andrew Windmill leads the way. The last time through, Adam Brown popped in the fastest lap of the race in 2nd place in the number 1 Ford Fiesta, 1 minute 5.758. The squabble in the Puma Cup turns its way out of Cops Corner, and we've had the change for the lead of Puma Cup. Number 117, Zach Bagwell, has gone through to pick up the lead in the Puma Cup. That's the silver car. Luke Johnson down to 2nd in the Puma Cup. You see, no, he's down to 3rd in the Puma Cup because Neil Jackson has squeezed through and up to 2nd in the Puma Cup.
Oh, that's gone a long way off piste. 57. That was the Jones and Black car.
Andy Jones starting that one. So it's 5 for the lead in Puma Cup at the moment. It's fact 6 for the lead in Puma Cup. They're all absolutely together through Brooklands, yeah.
All of the Puma Cuppers together.
Brilliant to see. It goes to show that, you know, when all of the cars are built to the same regulations and it's a kit of parts that you buy to convert it to Puma Cup specification, the ECUs are all standard as well on the cars or are mapped specifically to it. So the drivers are equally matched. There's nothing in it. It's great stuff.
317 into the pits of Fruition. That's Peter Hancock with his Peugeot 206. And ages ahead of Herd now. So that's the battle of the Honda Integra. It's that beautiful white Leighton House turquoise coloured Hill Motorsport Nigel Owens, which is signal dancing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great car, that one.
Very rapid car. Once Danny Cassar gets in it, well, but there are penalties to serve, though, aren't there? I heard you say.
Yep. So the number 86 Honda Integra, Hillwood Auto's back car, which is the company that Nigel Owens runs up in the Midlands, Tamworth area. He has got a 30-second penalty, but he hands the car over to Danny Cassar, and the other car that's got that 30-second penalty is the car that's in 2nd place at the moment, the number 1 Ford Fiesta in the hands of Adam Brown, who is 2.1 seconds shy of the race leader Andrew Windmill at this stage.
Not seen much of Andrew Windmill of late, have we? I mean, he was omnipresent for several seasons, always right up there in the fight with Danny Cassar and Adam Brown. The Superleggera, as it was called at one point, the Honda Integra. Something out of Aston Martin, Bylars, I think. But the raised wheels backing.
Through he goes over the start-finish line now, the race leader. He's catching up with that fantastic squabble for the lead of the Puma Cup. So through Cops Corner goes number 888, Andrew Windmill leading the way. Still 2 minutes to go before the pit window opens. So it's at least another couple of laps before we'll see anybody dive for the pit lane. And now Andrew Windmill is going to disturb this squabble for the lead of Puma Cup, which at the moment is going the way of Neil Jackson. How fitting would that be if himself and the Nick Full-James can secure victory in the Puma Cup?
He's
You see the speed,
straight, isn't he?
speed difference between Andrew Windmill and the Puma Cup cars just works his way past like a hot knife through butter, wasn't it?
K20 powered EP3. My favourite of all the Honda EP3 is fabulous.
Change for the lead of the Puma Cup again. Luke Johnson goes back to the lead of the Puma Cup. So that's another shuffle. So it's the yellow and blue Ford Puma of long-time Puma Cup racer Luke Johnson at 163 that has picked up the lead of Puma Cup. So Andrew Windmill through. Adam Brown scoots his way over the start-finish line now. Where's Alfie Jones in 3rd place? Here he comes now in the Dayglow car through and over the start-finish line. Nigel Owens and Russell Hurd 4th and 5th in the 2 Honda Integra DC5s, and completing the the top 6 at the moment. That's car number 20 that completes the top 6, which is going to be J.Fisher at the wheel of his Ford Fiesta. We've got one Puma coming in, and I'm afraid it's Katie Wall who's come in with 45 seconds to go before the pit window opens. Had another shuffle, hasn't it? We said Luke Johnson had gone back into the lead of the Puma Cup and now back into second in the Puma Cup has gone Zach Bagwell, and the car that was leading Puma Cup a few laps ago is now down to third in the Puma Cup, which is number 152 Neil Jackson. And Neil Jackson is coming under pressure from the car that is fully alongside him and is looking to squeeze his way through, which is Ian Howard, who was the pole sitter in the Puma Cup. They're all busy squabbling, and then there's a problem locking the brakes going in towards Cobb's Corner, and a big spin for Ian Howard, who spun across the nose of a couple of cars there. I don't think there was any contact. I think he just dived on the brakes and the car slid sideways on him.
I think part of the problem was, of course, we had another Puma in. We had Nigel Age and Russell Hurd tearing up the inside into Cops, and the speed differential was pretty high, as those two Honda Integras, which you see now on the Wellington Straight, were chasing down the top 3.
Peter Parker dives for the pit lane, and Peter Parkin dives for the pit lane, car number 34. 49 is in as well, which is David Hutchins. Couldn't quite spot the Puma that came into the pit lane. Yes.
Who was it?
Could have been Zach Bagwell.
Yes.
But he's not showing as being in the pits, actually, so I don't think it was him. It must have been Matthew Griffiths, car number 691.
Nigel Age into the pits. Pit window is open. He's going to relay Danny Cassar at the earliest opportunity. And 1:32. That's the Volvo C30 of Adrian Matthews is next into the pit lane.
So there's Peter Parkin's self-prepared car. It's got the Pug Sport logos on the side of it, but whilst there is some involvement with Carl Chambers, largely Peter Parkin does the vast majority of the preparation on that car himself. Peugeot 306, and with the clock having ticked sufficiently, he's released back down the pit lane to travel down the pit lane at pit lane speed limit and then break the beam at the bottom end, hopefully no shorter than 1 minute and 30 seconds after arriving in the pit lane area.
That's the arrival of 45 now. Just turned up, looks of things.
Alan Wiltshire, that will be. So over the start-finish line goes Russell Hurd. Flashes his lights this time through, which does suggest that the pit board was hung out saying box. So into the pit lane comes one car that had been leading Puma Cup, which is car 163 Luke Johnson. But I think at some point everybody's had a go at leading Puma Cup, haven't they? Pretty much.
And into the pits, there's interesting. That's 94. That's Ben Uren, who's out with his brother in this race, and their uncle was Jeff Uren, who was the 1959 British saloon car champion in a Ford Zephyr. And it's a big weekend for Ben, because he's getting married to the lovely Jessica in a couple of weeks' time. And he said, "Could I mention this? I have done."
You get an invite now. Andrew Rollerson into the pit lane, but more importantly, Andrew Windmill into the pit lane. The race leader is in. There was another car snuck in as well, but I couldn't quite work out who it was. And it must have been the number 4 car that came into the pit lane. Yes, it was Mark Walton's Ford Fiesta came into the pit lane. Now, remember, pit in to pit out, no less than 1 minute and 30 seconds. The 2 cars so far that have completed their pit stops, 1 minute 32, 1 minute 33,
Russell
so they're all good.
In car number 6 is Honda Integra.
Now we've got one car that's losing fluid out there, which is the Ford Puma of Matthew Griffiths. Black and orange flag for losing fluid. Into the pit lane comes Kev Smith, the wheel of the number 420 Honda Civic. And also we've got another car from the Puma Cup diving for the pit lane, which is going to be Gareth Copgrove. 110 is in. the moment is going to be Adam Brown at the wheel of the Ford Fiesta, who stays out on this lap.
Yes, he does. And one car, Adam Brown now in the Fives Garage Fiesta. Is ahead. The bright coloured Honda of Alfie Jones is next into the pits. He's second past us, but he's in, which means that Julian Fisher moves up. He's had a recent excellent victory, and Carson Coombe. And in fourth place is number 26, which is Chris Earl in his Honda.
Carl had the spin up at Cops Corner. The Ford Puma going well. Trying to recover in the hands of Ian Howard. Back out of the pit lane comes Andrew Windmill. Another Puma dives to the pit lane, which is Zach Bagwell. And also Simon Hatfield is in at the wheel of the Peugeot 206 RC. So there's a few more cars ticking through the pit stops.
Not to be confused with Simon Hatfield.
I nearly said it,
or Ben Hatfield, who races in Historics as well. James Hatfield's son. But lots of racing Hatfields, but this is a Hatfield. Hatfield in the north, as the sign used to say at the foot of the M1. There we go. That's an Alfa Romeo coming in. Probably the Alfa Romeo.
It is, yeah, the 33
of Steve Fletcher.
1.8 litre boxer engine, wasn't it, in those?
But there was some talks there involved in those.
Used to be the mainstay of the Chrysler Alfa Romeo Class F Championship, wasn't it? So everybody good so far in terms of the minimum pit stop times for those that I've spotted. Another car dives in the pit lane, which is going to be Catherine Henderson at the wheel of her Ford Fiesta ST. So,
Daughter of Alan Tice, long-time historic Marcos racer.
So Andrew Windmill, having conducted his pit stop, has now dropped to the bottom of the top 10. Of course, he will slowly work his way back through into the pit lane. We get another car coming.
So that's Murphy. Danny Cassar, he is in 18th place currently in the 86. He's got the fastest lap of the race, unsurprisingly, and of course of those ahead of him, at least half haven't made their stops yet.
I did say it wouldn't surprise me if his first flying lap, it was purple, it was the fastest lap of the race, and pretty much it was there. Locked brakes from Adam Brown, going up into Beckett's that time through, so he is pushing the race leader. So it's Julian Fisher, isn't it? Still keeping an eye on all of the pit stop times, and so far they are all good. There was one car that was 1 minute and 31 seconds, and that's about as close as you want to get to the minimum pit stop time.
Yeah, Cassar within a second of his pole time. His first flying lap.
The problem is 35 cars on a 1.6 mile circuit. You're not going to get many clear laps to try and get a quick time in, are you? Yeah, 1 minute 31.7 pit in to pit out for Kev Smith. So that's pretty good to being perfect, isn't it? Whereas Russell Hurd, for instance, 1 minute and 54. That's a poor stop from him. And even Nigel Ainge to Danny Cassar, that's not a bad stop actually. Remember, they have to stop for an extra 30 seconds. 2 minutes 0.927. So
it's well drilled.
Very well drilled pit stop, that one. Yeah, so they were a minimum of 2 minutes in the pit stops, and yeah, 2 minutes plus 0.9.
A puddle underneath.
Is that Julian Fisher's car?
Julian Fisher's car, isn't that?
Or is that Catherine Henderson's? Can't tell from there.
Can't tell from there. It's sort of 7 at the end of it, isn't it?
Yes, but it's the red and the white one.
No, it's the red and white one, yes.
So that would be Paul Murphy. Yeah, that's Paul Murphy's car. So that's the car that's got its problems. There's still a few more heading in towards the pit lane. So
76.
Stephen Gerrard comes in to hand over to Andy Corvette. Also Andrew Rollison,
and the leader
into the pit lane.
Leader in at 16 laps. That's Adam Brown.
57 in.
17 laps.
And also Neil Jackson is in as well. So Neil about to hand over to Nick Full-James for part 2 of the race. So car that should take up the lead of the race if he doesn't pit is going to be Chris Earl. So that's Steve McDermott into the pit lane as well. Steve, who's been very competitive in the last few years, racing MGZRs in various championships. champion. So where's Andrew Windmill now? He's up into sixth place as he goes over the start-finish line, and he is the leading pit stopper at this stage. Second place car that has pitted is Alfie Jones, isn't it?
Yes,
at this stage.
Kassar is in 11th place. There's J.Fisher. He continues.
Investigations continuing in the pit lane as well to try and work out exactly what's happened to Paul Murphy's Ford Fiesta. He's still remaining behind the wheel of it, but 3 team members peering into the bonnet at this stage. But huge pool of, I'm guessing it's coolant underneath, looking at the steam that's coming from the expansion tank.
Well, that's interesting because J.Fisher still running just ahead of Danny Kassar, but we'll pick him up when the pit phase is through. 94, that's the second of the Urens. Ben and Adam. Adam now in the BAB motorsport car.
And that is for position fighting away with that Volvo, isn't it? Because Adrian Matthews is just ahead of them on the track, and that is going to be for 14th and 15th position. Adrian Matthews and Ben Urem. Into the pit lane came Nick Meller, who we saw racing Peugeot 205s not many years ago.
69 into the pits.
Charlie Ford is in the Ford.
Fisher and Kassar go through. They are now in 8th and 9th places in 20 and 86 respectively. There is Adam Brown back out onto the track.
So I think there's only a couple of cars that haven't pitted yet. There's a 515 Jake Humphrey hasn't been in, 196 Ian Howard hasn't been into the pit lane as yet. Other than that, I think that's about it now.
Adam Brown having really good little tussle out there. Another of the Pumas has come in.
Yep, so that will be Ian Howard. So now that just leaves Jake Humphrey to come in at the wheel of the number 515 Renault Clio. And
right.
Here he comes.
Andrew Windmill is now back to second place. He is 1 minute and 6 behind the car of Earl. And that car shows now in the pits. So Windmill is the de facto leader. Humphrey is in the pits, as you say. Third place. Alfie Jones has pitted. He is running 4th. Adam Brown is 5th. And then it's Danny Kassar ahead of Fisher.
Problems, I'm afraid, out on circuit for David Hutchins and his Honda Civic. And is he going into retirement? I think he may well be. Can't quite work out where that is. That is at Brooklands, is it? Where he's going to park the car out of harm's way. So that is going to be it for the number 49 car.
It's 20. It's
420, Kev Smith.
420.
Yeah, who was going well. That's his second pit stop, Kev Smith. So he was inside the top dozen. So he's coming to the pits. Looking at the pit stop times, everybody is the right side of the line. Now, interesting, Nigel Ainge giving way to Danny Kassar. They were within a second of where they needed to be. Adam Brown was 2 minutes and 3.9, so he lost about 3 seconds in the pits that he didn't need to lose relative to the Honda Integra DC5 that Nigel Ainge shares with Danny Kassar. And now they're only 0.6 of a second apart from each other at the end of that lap.
Fisher's being caught by Earl in the 26 with the looks of things. He's going well too. Driver enjoying rookie season. So it's Andrew Windmill is back ahead. 49. That's David Hutchins. He's got it back to the pits. It sounds rough for whatever reason. Leads from Alfie Jones in the Dayglow car. There's Windmill. That is down. It's 20 laps down with 16 minutes remaining. Alfie Jones chasing hard, and he is 5.9 seconds behind. 5.9 as the gap face to second. Here's the Pumas, and they're still at it.
Yeah, so Pumas being led by Luke Johnson at the moment, kind of 163. I think it's a battle for second in the Pumas. That's the one that's about 10 over the start-finish line, and it's a brilliant squabble, isn't it? Because what we do have is Ian Howard trying to hold off the advances of the car that's behind him, which is now going to be the car in the hands of Nick Fuljames. And Nick Fuljames has got Gareth Cropgrove right with him, but there's a spin at Copse Corner, and I'm afraid into the gravel trap has gone Nick Fuljames. So just as we're talking about it, as they come over the start-finish line, Nick Fuljames loses the tail end of the 152 car, plops itself into the gravel trap, and I'm afraid that is going to be out of the race. Now, we might be able to get the marshals out there to give it a shove, because it's not got a long way in, and they do that, and he scrabbles his way back onto the run-off tarmac, and he will be back in the race, but a long way adrift of the cars he was doing battle with.
Great marshalling, and it's prevented the need for potentially a safety car, which is always appreciated for the continuity of the race. Really wide is the Scots Puma at Brooklands. So Danny Cassar is now third. It's currently 20 seconds adrift of the leader, with 14 and a half minutes remaining.
But he's lapping anywhere between 2 to 3 seconds quicker than the race leader at the moment, so yeah, there's a strong possibility he could get there, but he's just going to have to, as he always does, drive the socks off the thing.
Another slug of penalty time next time.
Yes. So I think we've seen Danny Cassar win on 60 seconds before. Don't think I've really ever seen anybody win on 90 seconds before. So Andrew Windmill back over the start-finish line. Number 888 car. Adam Uren still fighting away with the Volvo, isn't he, in the hands of Adrian Matthews. We picked up on that a while ago. That's the squabble for what will be 8th and 9th places, and Steve McDermott is right behind them now at the wheel of the MG ZR. So the Volvo, the Honda, the MG, all busy squabbling for 8th, 9th and 10th.
The famous Jeff Uren ran John Wilmot's racing team in the early 60s. Very famous. He was a rally driver as well. And then developed the hotted up cars like the Cortina Mark II Savage with a 3-litre Essex V6 under the bonnet. So Jeff Uren, a very famous name in racing. And Ben and Adam's dad is Bill, his brother.
Yes, racing in things like tin tops, not just here, but also in the MSVT Track Day Trophy and Track Day Championship in the past, in things like South Leon's, I think. So Andrew Windmill is looking now to try and carve his way through that little bit of traffic. As for over the start-finish line, yeah, so here comes Andrew Windmill now up towards Copse Corner. He's dealt with Steve McDermott. He deals with Adam Uren on the way in towards Copse Corner, and then should be able to pick off the Volvo of Adrian Matthews, who has escaped up the road a little bit from the two cars that he had been doing battle with. So in towards a break air for Maggott and Beckett's.
That's the Ford Focus in an interesting party dress.
It is, yes, yeah, very much so. Yeah, same platform, wasn't it? So Andrew Windmill leads by 10 seconds from Alfie Jones. And Alfie Jones was 13.3 ahead of Danny Cassar in third place. That's now down to 9.2 between second and third. But the gap to the race leader, Danny Cassar, is still 20 seconds. 12 minutes to go. I think the probability of Danny Cassar getting to Alfie Jones is there. I think the possibility of him getting to Andrew Windmill, the race leader, is very remote now, because they are lapping pretty much identical pace, aren't they? The last lap time from the race leader compared to Danny Cassar, about 40 thousandths of a second difference between the pair of their lap times.
That battle between Adam Uren and Steve McDermott in the MG is tremendous. They are absolutely nose to tail as they go through Copse.
Squabble in the Puma Cup seems to have evaporated a little bit as well. Yeah, Luke Johnson leads the Puma Cup in 20th position overall. Ian Howard is second in the Puma Cup in the 196 stock car. Gareth Copgrove is third in the Puma Cup, in car number 110, and fourth in the Puma Cup is car number 117 at this stage, which is going to be Zach Bagwell. Zach is just heading towards the breaking for Brooklands now. He's got Matt Churton's. There's Hatfield's Peugeot ahead, so that will be full position actually. The silver Peugeot with the dark blue tail end to it is running in 23rd position. Zach Bagwell's in 24th, so wherever you look, there's still fights, scores to be settled.
24 5 laps down for Andrew Windmill in the Raise Wheels Honda. Raise Wheels used to sponsor a Lola Group 6 car in the 1970s.
Just looking what Danny Cassar is. He was 9.2 adrift of Alfie Jones. He's now 5.6 adrift. So the Dayglow Orange Honda Civic in second place, getting caught by the number 86 Honda Integra DC5.
It's 18.5 seconds first to third then.
10 minutes to go, so just a quarter of the race to go at this stage. As for Adrian Matthews in the Volvo, he has pulled away, hasn't he, from Adam Uran now, and is still trying to squeeze his way through past a little bit of traffic.
Matthews the first of the lap runners, isn't he?
Between Adam Uran and Steve McDermott, as you said, they're still absolutely raging. The Honda just cannot shake away the MGZR. Over the start-finish line, the pair of them go, trying to deal with Gareth Cotgrove's Ford Puma in the process. And when they head up towards the braking area for Cops Corner, they get themselves back to being nose to tail.
Jones to Cassar down under 4.5 seconds. That was 4.22. 17.7. First to third, which is the gap. That's the important one, if you like, between the likely winners of this race.
You think that Danny Cassar taking over from Nigel Ames stopped for an extra 30 seconds? Had they not have done that, then they would be leading by about 10 seconds or so, wouldn't they, in reality? So it does prove the point. Yes, by giving these winners penalties, it does mix it up. It sounds strange, but the more you win, the less likely you are to win.
Yeah, it's like a British Sports Car Club handicap. If you manage to win one, the chances of winning another are fairly slim because you'll be handicapped out of it next time round.
The best one to win is the final race of the season, isn't it? Because the slate gets wiped clean. That's the one you want to win.
Absolutely.
Now, Adam Uran has escaped a little bit the grasp of the MGZR of Steve McDermott in their fight for 9th and 10th position. Just heading round through Beckett's at the moment. Steve McDermott taking a slightly later turn in towards Beckett's. The race leaders just coming towards Brooklands. Andrew Windmill leading by nearly 15 seconds last time through from Alfie Jones, but Alfie Jones was only now 2.5 seconds up the road from Danny Cassar. Good mates, Alfie Jones and Danny Cassar. I know Alfie's done a lot of work and development on this car over the winter. Danny Cassar has also tested the car to try and help Alfie out with it, and now he's closing in on his mate to see if he can wiggle his way through and take the podium spot away from him, second place that being. Andrew Windmill already through Cops Corner. There goes Alfie Jones over the start-finish line. There is Danny Cassar. What was 2.5 seconds between the pair of them is now down to 1.4 seconds just under between the pair of them.
And there's 7 minutes to go.
Yeah. So I think he's going to get there. So up towards Maggots and Beckett's. We've got the Adam Uran and Steve McDermott battle.
Heat is back into the pits. That is Paul Murphy.
That was the overheating car, wasn't it? And then Alfie Jones, is surely going to get caught. That Dayglow Orange Honda Civic is closing in on the battling Adam Uran and MGZR Steve McDermott driven cars ahead. But Alfie Jones can't afford to be slowed up here through the traffic because he's got Danny Cassar breathing down his neck for third place. And in fact, Danny's now going to try around the outside at Brooklands, which will give him the inside for Luffield Corner. And I don't think there's a great deal that Alfie Jones can do about it. Then there's a slower Luke Johnson driven Ford Puma just up the road that now Danny Cassar needs to try and work out where he's going to go. Is he going to go to driver's left, driver's right? He goes to the right-hand side of Luke Johnson, and they've skillfully dealt with the traffic there. So that was quite close, wasn't it? 4 cars trying to get past one Ford Puma there, and Danny Cassar moves his way up into second place with the 86 Honda Civic, Honda Integra DC5. Leading Puma Cup is still number 163 Luke Johnson, who was the innocent party in all of that overtaking. So Luke was also conscious that he's got a reasonable lead actually in the Puma Cup, 7.3 seconds that he leads the Puma Cup by, is it? No, it's 10.6 seconds that he leads the Puma Cup by over Ian Howard, who's second in Puma Cup, and the blue car of Gareth Cotgrove will be third in the Puma Cup, currently car number 110.
Still got 7 cars on the lead lap.
Adrian Williams outbrakes himself at the wheel of the Volvo, runs wide at Brooklands, and now that brings him right back into the clutches of the cars that he'd just escaped, which was Adam Uren and Steve McDermott.
Yeah, Adrian Matthews in that Volvo with his mirrors full now again. There's Alfie Jones, and behind Alfie Jones on the road is Adrian Matthews, is a lap down, just ahead of the Uren team Honda. And Adam now, and Steve McDermott, which has been one of the abiding battles of this race, hasn't it, Mark?
He's been a real thorn in the side, hasn't he, as far as the Uren family are involved. A little lock of the brakes from Adam Uren as he dives onto the brakes. The Alpha 33 slowing out on circuit as well. James Fletcher over the start-finish line. Looks as though that car is struggling a little bit down the start-finish straight. So it's a car that we've seen out racing in the Coward Sports tin tops for a very, very good number of years, but I'm not entirely convinced it's going to see the final 4 minutes of this race out, because that's all we've got to go. Andrew Windmill is about to come through and start lap number 32. Corner, which suggests that somebody has had a problem up there at turn number 1. So yellow flags flashing at cops. No idea as to what that might be that's causing it. Can't see anything. And let's just have a quick look. So up at Cops Corner now, and if we can get a view of the camera pans around, we're going to see what's happened, because the yellow flags are still waving up at Cops. Is there any sign of anybody in strife? Yes, it's the Alpha that's pulled off on the inside. So it is the Alpha 33 that's pulled off on the inside of Cops Corner. So it came over the start-finish line rather slowly. So James Fletcher's retired the car on the inside of the exit of Cops. Like the Ayrton Senna-esque stripes down the side of the 196 Ford Puma, the yellow Puma with the blue and the green stripes down the side. Still leading the Puma Cup is number 163, which is Luke Johnson. He's got a 10.5 second lead between himself and Ian Howard's car, which is the car that we usually see John Glover racing in, Ian Howard's, but he's hired it from John for the weekend. He's had a good run in it, actually.
Guess he might want to do it again as a result.
I think he did it up at Alton Park at the back end of last year, but I know John's done a lot of work to that car over the winter. Full respray on it amongst many of the other things that they've done to it to improve it, and it's been setting some good times this year. Hasn't always had the luck, but it's a very quick car. Andrew Windmill over the start and finish line, and with 1 minute and 50 seconds to go, is now onto his penultimate lap of the race. And if Andrew Windmill were to win this one, of course, remember, bittersweet is victory. You'll get yourself a 30-second penalty in the pits for the rest of the year.
And there's no penalty for second or third, and there's no incremental kind of...
No, it's all or nothing.
It works well, though, we have to say.
Well, I think part of it is it...
Oh, and unfortunately the Honda's blown up big style, and it's pulling off opposite the pits.
And Steve McDermott's in as well, who he's doing battle with. So into the pit lane comes the MGZR, which is quite bizarre. So Adam Uren doing the right thing, getting straight off the racing line, parking it right up against the barriers. And that was quite a significant failure for that car. So the MGZR of Steve McDermott also in. But coming out of Luffield for the final time is Andrew Windmill, who is on course for his first win this season in the Classic Sports Car Club Coward Sports tin tops. So through comes Andrew Windmill, and sorry, starts now the final lap of the race. So he's just now heading on to the last lap. 40 seconds to go. Can afford to stroke the car home because he was 13 or so seconds ahead of Danny Cassar, and the gap is now 12.4 between the two of them. So Andrew Windmill's done enough.
Alfie Jones is still progressing very nicely in third place. The number 86 Honda, Adam Brown, the first of the interlopers, if you like, the Ford Fiesta. Mr. 150 come from third. But there is the Race Racing Race 88 Honda of Andrew Windmill.
Take the checkered flag. So here comes Andrew Windmill now. He wins our Co-World Sports Tin Top race here at Silverstone. Flash of the lights from Andrew Windmill. And it was always going to be a case of he would be the one to watch because he was the fastest qualifying car that didn't have a time penalty in the pit lane. And Nigel Ainge and Danny Cassar come through to finish in second place, having stopped for an extra 30 seconds in the pit lane. Third will go the way of Alfie Jones at the wheel of the Dayglow Orange number 36 Honda Civic as he comes through, finishing third place. And fourth place will go the way of the other car that had the additional time penalty in the pits, which was the number 1 car of Adam Brown. The Ford Fiesta takes the checkered flag to finish in fourth position. Fifth place should be J.Fisher, who will be through shortly to take the checkered flag. And Russell Hurd sixth in the end. Had some good pace early on, Russell, didn't he?
He's come on well. He's overtaken Chris Earl in the latter stages of the race. Here's J.Fisher to finish in fifth place, and not far behind is Russell Hurd in that plain white Integra, ahead of Chris Earl. And Adrian Matthews is in the Volvos, the laps
are in second place, and Alfie Jones was third. Adam Brown finished in fourth place ahead of J.Fisher and Russell Hurd, who completed the top 6. In seventh place was Chris Earl, and Adrian Matthews, who had a busy old race, finished 8th in the end. Peter Parkin was there in 9th place ahead of Nick Mellor in 10th. Matt Churton and Jake Humphrey will wrap up the top 12. Then, as we head outside of the top 12, in 13th position, it was Alan Wilshire in 13th. Steve McDermott came into the pit lane but did enough laps, I'm sure, to be classified in 14th place ahead of Charlie Ford, Catherine Henderson. The Garrett and Corvette shared car. Luke Johnson wins the Puma Cup in 18th position ahead of Ian Howard and Gareth Copgrove, who were second and third in Puma's Cup respectively. Zach Bagwell, Simon Hatfield, Mark Walton, and then Neil Jackson and Nick Full-James were in 24th position. 25th was the pairing of Andy Jones and Clive Black. Andrew Wallace and Andrew Rollison was 26, and Paul Murphy, despite a couple of laps to the trips to the pit lane, finished in 27th position. You can see the rest of the non-finishers from there, which included the very late retirement with an engine failure, by the look of things, on the Adam Uren Honda Civic, which was going so beautifully well and was involved in some good old